Hey there, I'm Mike AD, and this is the Delta League Podcast Wheel of Fire Tournament episode. Delta, the only sport in which 3 teams play at the same time. And we're on week 18, and that means we crowned a champion this week in a game that was high scoring and definitely memorable. Let's do a breakdown of the weekend's festivities, and we'll start with Friday night. The night started with the Michael Beaton tribute, which was very moving. Even the Hess family was there. On to the pregame ceremony where they brought out all the hardware, including the Delta League Cup, and this thing is freaking boss. We got a little speech from Commissioner Darcy DeMello. Thankfully, he wasn't booed. He thanked everybody for making the inaugural season such a success, and thanked the Toronto group for putting on such an incredible festivities. Now, he then announced that next year's Wheel of Fire tournament would be hosted by Los Angeles. And the LA fans that came on Friday to see their team in the opening match were understandably stoked. But this is not a hard decision. Expect these first few tournaments to go to big cities like LA, New York, and Chicago before they explore smaller markets like Salt Lake City and Memphis. But with the league most likely undergoing expansion in 2 years, and there's going to be a lot more cities jumping at the opportunity to host this thing. Now, let's get on to the distribution of the hardware. Now, the Offensive Player of the Year award goes to Vladimir Millet of Seattle, who had 80 goals. Anybody on that Seattle team could have won this scoring championship. They have the top 3 positions for almost the entire year. If not for Evan Parawall's injury, he could have very well won this thing, but it was Vlad Millet who led this team on the court. I don't know if anyone can score this many goals again. Just a crazy number. And now the guy is hurt. He was out there on crutches. The Pirates are going to miss this guy's output. Now, Defensive Player of the Year goes to Neil Conlon of Memphis. What a rock this guy is. Ulrich Schultz has turned this guy into a total beast. Funny enough, Coach of the Year, Ulrich Schultz from Memphis. This guy has them running an incredible system. They're not even close to the best offensive team in the league, so they had to be the best defensive team in the league, and this team was not predicted to finish as high as they did. Just an amazing job this guy has done. Now, Unsung Player of the Year award goes to Felix Kolb of Detroit. This is an award very similar to the Sixth Man Award in the NBA. This guy brings incredible value for the number of minutes he plays. Now, Leadership Award goes to Vladimir Millet, Seattle. Does any captain in the league lead by example and score at the rate this guy does? Hands down, unanimous. Now, Most Outstanding Player, Star Palmer, Chicago. All the young women watching this league wonder if one day they can play in the Delta League. She proves it. Every week, she's on the highlight reel, and that's why she deserves this award. Spectacular. Now, Most Valuable Player, Chevy Colella from Washington. Sometimes the most prolific players are not the most valuable, especially if the team is loaded with talent. You look at the team that without this player would be up Schitt's Creek. That is the definition of valuable. Too many times in sports, they give the MVP to the guy who wins the scoring title. The league made a good decision here, and after the season this guy has had, starting in Boston, where the owner, Adriano Portaro, pushed this guy out of town, he shows up in DC and leads this team to the playoffs when we thought all hope was lost. Whatever happens in this tournament, he can hold his head high. Now, on to game number 1, where the number 1 seed Seattle plays number 4 seed Toronto and number 9 seed Los Angeles. And in this one, Seattle advances. They win it. Seattle 25, Toronto 20, Los Angeles 19. Seattle heads to the finals in a very close game, but it wasn't close all the way here. Seattle had an atrocious first period, which led to 2 yellow cards and a black card for an injured player named Corbin Womack, who decided to get into a scuffle with Toronto captain Travis Valencia, which spilled out onto the court. Boom! Cone of silence. Now, well, Seattle fans hated this and littered the court with garbage, but they then turned it around in a hurry. For Seattle, leading the way it was Laurie Moss with 8 goals. Tomi Anastos, 7 goals. And Evan Parawal with 6 goals. For Toronto, leading the way was Gord Maurer with 5 goals. And North Malikian with 4 goals. And for Los Angeles, it was Frank Viano with 7 goals. They're waiting on Sunday for the winner. Now, let's move on to Saturday afternoon, where the number 2 seed Memphis plays number 5 seed Phoenix and the number 8 seed Philadelphia. And the shocks continue. Philadelphia advances to the finals. Philadelphia wins 43, Phoenix 29, Memphis 24. The miracle continues as this Cinderella team is going to the finals. In the process, Philly set a Delta record with 43 goals in a single match. Philly was lucky to be there because their bus driver fell ill, passed out, and the bus veered into an oncoming lane, nearly causing a head-on collision. The team had every reason to be shaken, but they dodged a major bullet here. Now, Phoenix had a little bit of a hiccup and only brought their orange uniforms by accident instead of multiple sets for the tournament. Remember, the top seed determines what uniform they want to wear, and the next team must change theirs to conform. Well, Memphis wore their powder blues, and Phoenix came out with orange, which is usually their alternate. And their regular magenta would have sufficed here, but they only brought one bloody set. However, Philly obliged and wore their very unfamiliar blood red on white alternates with blood splatter. Those are going to sell like hot cakes. Now, for Memphis, leading the way, it was Gerard Stradell with 7 goals and Neil Conlon with 4 goals. For Phoenix, leading the way, it was Tremaine Wolitzer with 6 goals and Demetrius Lindbergh with 5 goals. And for Philadelphia, leading the way, it was Ariel Vignola with 7 goals. Trent Penzavelli with 6 goals. Jack Ith and Lloyd Warfield with 5 goals. And Philadelphia, knowing where they were 6 weeks in, Actually, knowing where Philadelphia was at week 12, when the management gave up on this team, holy shit, do they look like a bunch of geniuses? They're going to the finals. Now, on to the third game on Saturday afternoon. We've got the number 3 seed Vancouver playing number 6 seed New York and number 7 seed Washington. And Washington wins it. They stay hot. They win it. Washington 42, New York 31, Vancouver 14. There were some fireworks on the New York bench as Chucky Sponga got into it with former player, retired Harrison Alston. This looked pretty heated. Rumors from fans who witnessed the altercation said Sponga didn't like Alston's reaction to the loss. He said, maybe if you weren't such a pussy, we would have won this game, which got Alston out of his chair. Just not enough fire from the fire demons at the right time. Now, Vancouver, along with putting on a pathetic performance here, got a bench minor for some excessive complaining to the official. That's going to lead to something called a fax with a bill on it that will be sent to the general manager, who will then participate in the redistribution of blame. Just not a good end to a team that was on the cusp of being a winner all year. Now, there was also another yellow card in this game for Vancouver player Bundy Reed, who is becoming one of the dirtiest players in this league, and that is not a compliment. Now, for Vancouver, leading the way it was Andy Alway with 5 goals. For New York, it was Ruben Nygaard with 7 goals and Chucky Sponga with 6 goals. And for Washington, it was Elix Henderson with 9 goals, Sebastiano Guarnieri 7 goals, and Chevy Colella with 5 goals. So now, we're going to head to the finals on Sunday. Now, in this game, it was Seattle number 1 versus number 7 Washington versus number 8 Philadelphia. And in this one, Seattle wins the championship. They win this game, Seattle 41, Washington 34, Philadelphia 16. They take the inaugural Delta League championship. Now, Washington in any other game with any other opponent would have won the championship, but it was an offensive show, and the Pirates blew them out of the water and sent them crashing to the bottom. Philadelphia, who had been on an improbable Cinderella run here, finally runs out of juice and is totally outclassed by both opponents. Tommy Anastos was given the MVP award for leading the playoffs in scoring. Now, let's just take a look at the scoring here. It was at the top, Tommy Anastos, 16 goals. Laurie Moss, Seattle, 13 goals. Ariel Vignola, Philadelphia, 12 goals. Elix Henderson, Washington. Sebastiano Guarnieri, Washington. Evan Parawal, Seattle, 10 goals each. Rob Donoff, Seattle, and Chevy Colella, Washington, with 9 goals each. And Farley Greenlaw, Washington. Frederick Giacalone, Washington. Brad Blagg, Washington. River Melcher, Washington. 8 goals each. And Tommy Anastos gets more goals than anybody and runs off with the MVP trophy. Now, this trophy presentation, wow, was this trophy look freaking amazing. You seen the Champions League trophy? This looks pretty good. And anyone that sees Seattle celebrating with this cup can't wait to get their hands on this thing. Freaking great. Now, let's move on to the league news. There were some rumors coming out of LA that the team would be making a name change, and the rumors are true. Hold your horses, it's not what you think. Starting next year, they're going to be known as the LA Delta Club. Just kidding. They're going to be called the Fallen Angels of Los Angeles. The response has been mixed, but they're doing it anyway. Now, Memphis Stadium fire update. It was a small electrical fire as a result of some maintenance that was going on in the main office area. The damage was pretty bad, but the court area was unaffected. Everything has to be gutted and rebuilt, but it will be in time for the draft in February. Delta will return to Memphis as scheduled. Now, Washington captain Sebastiano Guarnieri has stepped down as the team's captain, citing, "I don't think I'm what the team needs." I think he's overreacting. I think his leadership got this team into the position they were in, which, improbably as it is to play for the championship. I think he should have a stiff drink and think about it. Now, Salt Lake City captain Alexander Harris has reported that he's dealing with multiple injuries that he played with down the stretch, including a broken toe. I surmise there will be multiple players coming out over the next few weeks, limping into surgical theaters to deal with nagging or severe injuries. As fans, we're just happy that they put it all on the line to give you, the fans, the most exciting league to come around in decades. Now, let's take a short look at the mailbag before we bid adieu until next year. Now, Matty V, what do you think is the greatest story coming out of the first year of Delta League? The fact that we're still here. The fact that there's going to be another season. That our ratings haven't cratered. Our league merchandise is selling very well. Our attendance is excellent. Our engagement with all demographics has been very strong. The performance of women in this league at a high level has been extremely encouraging. Our developmental systems are producing world-class players that enter our draft system. The future looks incredibly bright, Matty V. Now, at Real Piero Barone. Unfortunate for the Shred, but I took a cash out before the game on Sunday that was hard to resist. Upset with Montreal's performance, but I could get that team in shape quick. Thinking of putting a bid in for the Montreal franchise. I think it may be hard to purchase that team from the Mike Hanley group, given that he paid $25 million for the team. Good luck with that, actually. Just make sure you don't violate the league gambling regulations. Now, Real TJ, when do you think the league is going to expand, and what is the process? I think it's a matter of time. It's not if, but when. When it happens, the league will expand by 3 teams. The league has received expansion applications from, get this, almost 24 different cities. When the season begins, the league would like to whittle those down to 12 at the start of the season meetings. By week 6, those will be whittled down to 6 or 7, and by week 12, those 3 teams will be decided upon. Whether this occurs in season 3 or after that is determined by the success of the league and whether or not there will be a 3rd season. All we know for sure is there will be a 2nd season regardless. Now, Big Tory. There appears to be no salary cap in Delta League. Do you think the league will ever implement such a thing? The purpose of a salary cap is to even the playing field between the have and the have-nots. Many leagues have a salary cap, others don't. If we keep noticing that small market teams cannot compete, maybe then it is time to implement such a measure. But at this point, player salaries are not exorbitantly high. As leagues get more popular, as revenue increases, the players start collecting a bigger and bigger piece of that revenue, and it very well could be that the natural state of any league is rapidly spiraling salaries. Talk to me in 5 years. Now, this has been a really incredible year. Seattle wins the championship today, and they were a dominant team from the outset. They have such dynamic scoring that 4 of their players could have won the scoring championship. Just an unstoppable arsenal of weapons that they bring to bear every week, and God help the opposition. There's 18 teams in this league, and 12 to 13 of them were in a playoff spot up until the final week of the regular season. We have some great stories coming out of this. Los Angeles, who had a horrific start to the year, to storm back and clinch a playoff berth in the final week. We have the Shred, which were even more miraculous because it appeared that their management team had traded their assets, stripped the cupboard bare, and this team responded in a way I've never seen. They scratched, clawed, and fought their way all the way into the playoff position, and not only that, they played for the championship. Washington, who seemed to be languishing in mediocrity, ever so slowly put one win together after another until they were a bona fide playoff team. They go to the finals and should have 0 regrets here. Dallas, for who everything was going well, then it all fell apart at the wrong time. We had teams like Chicago start the year so strong and then just begun to collapse into a heap of steaming rubble. We had teams like Atlanta lose an integral player like Bello Hess and then continue to push forward fighting for a playoff berth only to fall just short. We had the sad sack Miami Vortex, for who things can only get better, get 0 wins in a 17-game season, and it was heartbreaking to watch as they just lost a few of those games by mere goals. Believe me, it will get better, and the fan base will respond in kind. Toronto, Vancouver, Phoenix, Memphis all played so well, but unfortunately, only one team can win. We had brawls, players going through score tables, players beating up fans in the parking lot, every player turning gay, GMs challenging players to hammer curl contests. It was just so insane. And I hope you join me in February for the draft and next year for season 2 of the most exciting, most chaotic sport on the planet, Delta League. See ya.